Hi, I'm Charles with AniCap. Previously a boy named Wang was born with unimaginable power, and decided to hide his power forever. His parents then give him an amulet and a pill to suppress his power. Wang would become enraged when his close friend Sunro is fatally wounded, and he would try to reset the world thousands of times in an attempt to revive her. Sunro would eventually be revived, but in order to undo the damage Wang had done, time would have to be reversed, and Sunro's memories of their closeness would be lost. The story continues as Wang's dad places a new power-suppressing amulet on Wang's neck. Froggy breathes a sigh of relief now that the world is safe from Wang's destructive power, and tells him to never do such foolish things again. Acting against the law of nature by restarting the world so many times has caused immeasurable damage to the total value of the world's spiritual force. Later, Yi explains that Luyan is in custody and the Shadow faction has been exterminated, but they haven't discovered who hired them to assassinate Sunro in the first place. Yi's superior learns that a space station detected a spiritual force tsunami during the student's test that had adverse effects on the economy. We then see that Wang's recent exploits had slowly been dropping the world's total spiritual force level. In the space station, analysts are becoming concerned as the value is far lower than it's been in some time, at 4.8. Yi's meeting is over, but his superior explains that upcoming rounds of the sword competition must be cancelled. Faction 59 students are bummed about the cancellation, but realize they wouldn't have gotten far anyway since the low-level Wang was holding the team back. Wang's friends point out how quiet he has been after winning the competition, but he is just enjoying the peace, not knowing that fate has something else in store for him. Miss Pan arrives, glad to see that everyone has done their assignments during summer break, and fully expects them all to have reached the intermediate phase in their development. The Department of Education is paying close attention to Faction 59 after the tournament, and have requested that a spiritual force test be taken later that day. Anyone who has not reached the intermediate phase will be kicked out of the elite class. Miss Pan goes on to say that ordinary students that do well will be moved up to the elite class, and states that it's time to bid farewell to the old and welcome the new. Chen has just recently broken through to the intermediate phase, and Sunro had quite some time ago. Hago mocks the other classmates for being lazy all summer, and they all become concerned for Wang. Sunro is especially worried and offers to give him some of her spiritual energy. Chen then explains that he has learned a special move that will help him break through. Wang's two friends argue about which solution is better, but he doesn't stick around to listen. Hago will later explain that he has learned to make foundation pills. These pills give a person a burst of spiritual energy that lasts for 1 hour. Hago points out to Wang that they have made pills together before, and he is willing to help him out of the goodness of his heart. However, Wang can tell that Hago hasn't actually reached the intermediate phase yet. Hago begs for Wang's help and explains that his parents will break his legs if he is expelled from the elite class. Wang agrees to help, and they find Froggy so they can use his ability to speed up the process of making pills again. Nearby, Professor Zukong explains how a test called Doomsday will be used to test the student's spiritual force. Each student will take turns standing at the center of a formation. The formation will adjust automatically and create a power storm that's force is based on the student's strength. The cloud will unleash all its stored power, and if the student's body doesn't explode after being hit by the lightning bolt, they pass the test. Zukong explains that the test isn't so barbaric anymore though, and they now have precautions in place for students that fail. The first student is called to the stage and fails miserably. Sunro wonders where Wang is, and we see that he and Hago are nearly done making the foundation pills. Hago incorrectly thinks back to when Wang had sacrificed his own grade to save Hago's. Hago reveals that was the day he decided they would be friends for life, but Wang has no clue why he remembers it that way. Just then, Wang must think on his feet as Miss Pan approaches, and she enters the room to find them shirtless. Hago lies about falling into a pool and having to dry their clothes, but Miss Pan can see the furnace working. More quick thinking allows Hago to hide the pills, and Miss Pan is shocked to find that the boys were only drying their socks. She leaves, but Hago reveals that he hid the pills in his stomach. 2 pills prove to be far too much, but luckily Wang is able to settle him down. Hago then wakes up just as it's his turn to be tested, and is relieved to have taken the foundation pills. It's been over an hour since then though, and the pills are no longer effective. Hago apologizes to his family as he will surely fail, and promises to make his way back to the elite class one day. Hago passes the test though, and assumes the pills must have somehow helped him reach the intermediate phase. Jinkei points out how it was actually Wang's punch that helped him break through, and Zukong calls Wang up next. Hago worries that Wang will fail since he ate his pill too. Zukong explains that an exception has been made since Wang has such a low force value and allows him to wear a hard hat. Wang's test begins and Jinkei points out a flaw in the test. The formation has an upper limit on how much power will be released, but it doesn't have a time limit. This is because no one ever anticipated that someone as strong as Wang would take the test. Everyone becomes concerned as the lightning bolt continues on for much longer than expected, and Zukong attempts to pull the plug. Wang's spiritual force is seemingly endless. It has a negative effect on the city, and analysts in the space station see that the world's total spiritual force value has dropped again. Wang has an idea and throws his spirit sword to Sunro. The space loop allows him to speak with Sunro, and he tells her to use the sword since it serves as an insulator. Sunro uses it to shut off the test, but does a bit more damage than expected. Chen thinks that Sunro has developed godlike power, but she knows it was actually Wang's. Wang then wonders if he passed the test, but Zukong is too shocked to respond. This incident would later be classified as a malfunction in the test. A look at the aftermath caused by Jinkei's power shows that he ripped a crack in space. Through this crack, the spiritual impulses of the human world disperse into another. This other world is ruled by the Emperor of Demons. A demon master explains to him that the human world is the cause of the disturbance in their world. The Emperor distinctly remembers sending a demon king to conquer Earth, and the demon master explains it was his apprentice, the giant frog. Of all the demon kings, the giant frog is the absolute most ferocious, but the Emperor is displeased to see that he has not brought the Earth to him yet. They wanted to capture Earth for its abundant spiritual energy, but its total spiritual force seems to have become lower than theirs, and Earth is now pulling energy from their world. The Emperor grows more frustrated with the useless frog with every passing moment. The Demon Master vows to pay his apprentice a visit, and Froggy freaks out when he receives a notification about it. Later, Wang enjoys a relaxing day when Froggy arrives and explains that he is just there to visit his very good friend Wang. At the school, we see that Miss Pan prepares to visit Wang as well. He is performing poorly in school, and she also plans to scold him since his force value test resulted in a large bill for damages throughout the city. Zukong explains that he won't be going along though, as he has personal matters to attend to. Just then, the Demon Master arrives and attempts to message Froggy, but he manages to hide it from Wang. The Demon Master uses the GPS in the skull he carries and heads out to find his apprentice. Froggy explains to Jinkei that his master is the aggregation of all wisdom of the demon world, an ancient demon that lived 1,000,000 years. He was Froggy's terrible instructor for hundreds of years, and he has nightmares of him till this day. Wang hears and realizes that Froggy is just hiding from his master there. Wang's father explains that he has prepared a new amulet that will hopefully fix the excessive emotion suppression of the current one. Wang's mother explains that Miss Pan will be visiting them soon, and Froggy trembles in fear as the Demon Master continues to hunt down his spiritual energy. Wang's father puts the finishing touches on the new amulet and recruits Froggy to help him. Froggy is in charge of placing the new amulet, and Wang's father will tear off the old one. The most difficult part is the removal, as any carelessness will lead to a spill of Wang's spiritual energy and unimaginable destruction. After applying pressure to certain points on Wang's body, the amulets are quickly switched. They think it's a complete success, but hear Wang's incoherent dribble and quickly realize that Froggy placed the amulet upside down. Wang's father explains that Froggy should have noticed the red markings, but he points out that dogs are colorblind. Wang's father has accepted that the world is about to end, and dramatically bids farewell to his darling wife. However, before any major damage is done, Froggy devours the spiritual energy. He pays the price though, and we see that the Demon Master continues his struggle to find Froggy. Wang's father managed to put the amulet on correctly, but is surprised to see that it has dramatically changed his behavior. Miss Pan is concerned about Wang's grades, but his mother explains that she just wants him to make friends and enjoy himself. Miss Pan points out that he didn't finish his summer assignments, but Wang shows that he has. He didn't do well refining pills, but he shows that he can now make several. Miss Pan's last concern is taken care of as well when Wang uses the art of enlightenment to animate inanimate objects. Wang's father determines that the new amulet is forcing excessive emotion and plans to switch it with another. Wang's mother distracts Miss Pan as Froggy prepares for the switch. Miss Pan gets a peek though, and they tell her that the dog is just giving a massage. With her gone, a new amulet is placed and Wang returns to his old self. The problem now is that Wang has somehow enlightened all the furniture, and Wang's mother must distract their guest once again. Wang explains that it's because of the new amulet. His father is useless at the moment, so Wang uses Froggy's ability to revert the furniture to its inanimate state. Wang's mother gives a sob story about how Wang's father and herself have hardly any power, and Wang has never had friends. However, Wang was somehow able to make it into the elite class and has finally made friends. Miss Pan is buying it, and Wang's mother states she only wants Wang to live his life happy. Downstairs, the furniture is returned to normal, but Wang's father points out how the amulet has been overloaded. Froggy is not able to assist the placement of a new amulet though, as he trembles in fear from the Demon Master's impending arrival. Froggy had used Spiritual Force moments ago, and that was all the Demon Master needed to find his location. His master teleports to the front of the house, and Wang's father states how Wang's power is about to burst. Froggy is completely unconscious at this moment as the Demon Master approaches the door. Wang's father is desperate and decides to tear the amulet off to relieve the building pressure. A bit of Wang's power is released just as the Demon Master walks through the door. He is then completely wiped out by the powerful beam. They manage to hide everything from Miss Pan, and she leaves with a different perspective on teaching her students. Froggy awakes, glad to see that a new amulet has been placed, and is shocked to find a remnant of his old master. Later, a look into the past shows passengers aboard what is called a sword liner. A woman named Yu stuns everyone with her beauty. Her companion reminds her that they are on a mission and to not show her art of beautification in public. They can sense that they are being watched by the 7-star squad when a flight attendant reminds Yu to sit down and fasten her seatbelt. Yu believes that she is too powerful to have to do such things, but an explosion would prove otherwise. Her companion would attempt to save her, but eventually fail, and Yu would be taken from him. This story of the past is told by Hago, and he explains that the man is called the Idol Beauty. He is the world's #1 assassin, but hasn't been seen in the 10 years after the crash. There are rumors though that he has been spotted near their school. Miss Pan then explains that an ordinary student performed exceptionally well on the Spiritual Force test, and has been moved up to their elite class. Her name is Lin, and Wang can instantly recognize her from the other world he created. Sunro mistakenly thinks Wang is staring at her, and Miss Pan explains that Lin is very smart, but her family has difficulties. Elsewhere, Zukong cautiously approaches someone they say is a super assassin. Zukong tells her to surrender herself and can only sigh after wondering where she has been for the past 10 years. What he is actually talking to is a bomb though, and we see that the real Yu is back at the school. She explains that he fell for her very obvious trick to lure him, and reveals that her real goal is to see her sister, Lu Yin. The guys discuss a rumor that Lu Yin is imprisoned at their school, but Chen points out that the security there is too bad for it to be true. They spot the woman from the old photo and chase her, only to lose her soon after. Wang notices signs that someone is living in the room they're in, and they all think it must be the world's #1 assassin, the Idol Beauty. They all hide as someone approaches, but must reveal themselves when Chen is startled. Lin is furious at the perverts for hiding in her room, and in her rage accidentally hits a statue. They fall in and Wang follows after them. We then see that Yu reunites with her sister and explains that the guards stood no chance in stopping her. Lu Yin is excited for them to join forces and revive the Shadow faction, but Yu reveals that is not why she is there. Yu reminds Lu Yin that she failed her mission to eliminate Sunro, and these are the consequences. Lu Yin realizes her sister must have been sent by Party A, and Yu fires a warning shot to explain that she has her own score to settle as well. Wang and his friends interrupt them for a moment though, and Jinkei tells Wang that he has located a safe room for them. Wang uses the loops of time and space to take them there, and turns the lights on to find that the room actually belongs to the Idol Beauty. They find the legendary board of clues, and see that he has been investigating the swordliner crash from 10 years ago. We then listen as Yu describes how she met Idol Beauty, and it was the best years of her life. She eventually became the leader of the Shadow faction, but will lose everything after the crash. Yu was dropped into the demon world, separated from her love, and endured it for 10 years. She was trapped there and forced to translate documents of the two worlds. Yu would eventually see the contract between Party A and the Shadow faction. After seeing that Lu Yin had become the new leader of the Shadow faction, Yu realized that her sister must have caused the crash in order to take her place as leader. Lu Yin admits to wanting her place as leader, but explains that the crash was not her doing. Yu doesn't believe her though, and bids farewell to her sister. Zukong arrives just in time though, and reveals that she is mistaken. Our group then break down the events that occurred 10 years ago. First is the crash, which happened just above the school. Second, this is the same time the Demon Lord Giant Frog arrived on Earth. The last is how Master Yi defeated the frog. It's at this point that Wang realizes what happened that night. Wang remembers how he had actually been the one to defeat the frog. The Demon King's erratic attack is what actually hit the swordliner, and Wang stopped its descent. Yu was swept away though, as Wang managed to land the swordliner, and the idol beauty cried out in agony. Our group weep as they realize that the idol beauty has created a base in the very spot she disappeared, and has waited 10 years for her return. Zukong explains everything to his lost love, and she points out how he has gained so much weight. Zukong explains that in order to mask the pain of losing her, he would devour foods, and the thick fat reflects his heavy thoughts of her. The two share a tender moment, and instead of being forced to watch, Lu Yin begs that she be assassinated. Zukong then keeps his promise, and the two set off to see the stars and the moon. Our group would eventually find their way out of the hideout, and are surprised to find the reunited couple. Thanks for watching part 6, 10,000 likes and I'll make a part 7.